Welcome to Beyond the Caseload, Mission, Laughs, and Life at PPT, where we talk honestly about life in pediatric therapy, the chaos, the laughs, the growth, and the moments that make it all worth it. Your hosts are Regina, a speech-language pathologist and rehab director of West Palm Beach, and Tara, HR director, bringing you real conversations from Beyond the Caseload.
Welcome back to Beyond the Caseload. I'm Tara, the Human Resources Director, and I'm joined by
Regina. I am the director at our West Palm Beach location.
Today we are going to be asking Regina questions about what it's like to be a therapist, about mentorship, and all kinds of questions that you would like to know from your rehab director.
Yay, I'm excited.
So tell me, Regina, when did therapists start building their caseload? Do we just throw them in, or is it more like a slow roll?
It's definitely a slow roll, and I would say it even starts before their first day. Whenever we interview our candidates, we really get a feel for their strengths. One of the questions I always ask is, who are the kids that fill your cup, that really speak to you? Are you that therapist, for a speech therapist, for example, that really likes articulation? Are you that OT whose sensory is my jam? I really love kids with autism and doing this. We really get an idea at first who they are before they even start. And then when we build our caseload, we try to give those kids to those therapists. The first day, you're only going to treat 2 or 3 kids just because it is. You're getting to know where all the materials are. You're getting used to a new workplace with new people. That first week, it's lots of observation. It's lots of time for trainings. It's lots of time to just get acclimated. And then every kind of week after that, we slowly build your caseload. We build those evaluations in. So that second week, maybe you get one eval and you're usually co-evaluating with somebody. So again, because you might have done this for 10 years. We want to see what we want to teach you, like kind of how we do things. Because we really are passionate about trying to do as much work at work and not taking so much work home. We only get an hour with those kids in that eval, and we want it to be super effective. I would say it's definitely a slow roast, and by that week 10, 11, week 12, that's when you're fully ramped.
On your own. As far as the evaluations, do they get to watch only their own specialty of evals, or do they watch other? Yeah,
so since we are a multidisciplinary practice, those observation times are across disciplines because we want you to see, we treat the whole child. And a 2-year-old, all of these milestones interact with each other. I tell parents that all the time. I'm never surprised when my late walkers or my late talkers. So they all interact with each other. It's important that you see, what does a PT do? What does the OT do? What does the speech therapist do? What does a feeding therapy session look like? So you become more well-rounded. And also it teaches you how to look for those things so that when you are treating kids and you're like, wait a second, he shouldn't be toe walking right now, or oh, he's holding that pencil really in a funny grasp and he's 5. You can start helping those families, and that all starts by observing and getting a feel of what the whole child is supposed to look like with those developmental milestones.
And do you say, is there a way to get an OT in your session and say, I think that this is happening, but I'm not sure?
Yes, we have a group chat that we use. I'll say, is there an OT available to help me look at this kid? Because even though I've been doing this a long time, sometimes I see things and I don't know. I'm not an OT. I don't know, is that appropriate? Are those the letter reversals? Is that normal at this age, or other things going on? Yeah, sometimes you'll have therapists pop in and they'll say, oh, it's my doc time. I'm available. What's going on? And then that parent gets to talk to a person right then and there.
Parents feel okay about it?
Yeah, and a lot of times we're talking about it. Say, hey mom, I'm seeing this. Can one of my OTs come and just take a look? The parents are usually open to help because they don't know.
Yeah.
If you're not in this field and you're not used to working with kids, the hospital doesn't send you with this big manual on what to look for in your child. That's why professionals like us exist, so that parents can feel supported knowing they've got a therapist who's got their back and who's going to help that child and not miss anything. And that close relationship is something we cherish because these parents really rely on us.
One of the questions I get a lot when I'm interviewing new candidates, especially new grads, is they want to know what kind of formal meetings or mentorship do they get? What is it going to look like for them as far as mentorship?
Yes. So we do have a very crafted way of putting in those formal meeting times weekly. If you are an assistant, you're going to meet with your supervisor weekly. It's of course to have that mentorship piece, but it's also to go over, maybe there's a really challenging kid on your caseload and you're like, oh, I've been trying this way, but it doesn't seem like it's working, that you have someone to bounce ideas off of. It's also a time to stay organized, help with the reevaluations. It's just a good opportunity. They are formal meetings. They're every Tuesday at 1 p.m. or every Thursday at 9 a.m. You can always schedule a meeting if you need extra support in that week. Or, for example, maybe you're trying to build into that feeding therapy clinical ladder that we have. You might say, I want to meet with a level 3 feeding therapist for a couple of weeks while I'm getting used to this or learning the ropes. It's definitely self-driven, but there is a little structure to it. In your first 90 days, you meet with an admin trainer. And the admin trainer is there to just help you with all things administrative in the sense of your timesheet or your notes or writing up those evals and just making sure the wording's right. You have lots of support, clinical support from your supervisor or lead, and admin support. And again, I usually say once the therapist hits that 90-day, what do you need right now? Are you good letting this go? It doesn't have to end. Some therapists are like, I got this, and they're done at week 10. They're like, I don't need this. I know how to do this. And some are like, can we hang on a little longer until I feel really confident with this? And we say, of course. So it's very self-driven for the therapist.
Okay. When it comes to the day-to-day workload, how much time is spent on documentation versus treating?
Lots of treating because that's what we do and that's what we're here for. But how we've scoped the sessions is those last 5 to 7 minutes are reserved for parent education and documentation. A lot of times when my parents are in on the session, I combine those two ideas where I say, all right, Mom, you just watched me for 20 minutes. Your turn. You're going to sit here and do what I just did. I'm going to go tap, tap, tap and write my note. Sometimes if the parent is waiting in the lobby, we'll take them out those 5 to 7 minutes early and say, okay, Mom, this is what we did. Here's your homework. This is what you're going to try at home. And next week, you're going to tell me how it went. And then you go back in your room and you finish your note before you get your next child. We really want you to get as much of that documentation time done during those billable times because we don't need to take it home. But of course, we get those kids that are a little excited. And
can you get a whole note done in 7 minutes?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say in 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I think depending on the type of session you just had, some kids are a lot of energy and need your 100% attention. Yeah. Then maybe you are bringing that child out 5 minutes before and saying, Mom, here's what you're going to work on. And then you're going to go back and do your note. It's definitely doable.
And it's better to do it right then because it's fresh in your mind.
Absolutely. Thinking from a clinical perspective, you could see 10 kids in a day. You could see 13 kids in a day. You're not going to remember every detail of every session by the end of the day. Right. So you want to make sure you have accurate notes. Doing it in the session is definitely the best way to do it. And that's how I explain to the parents too. This is for your child's benefit. The most accurate data I can collect is writing their note in my sessions. I am totally invested in your child's session and I'm not thinking about anything else but your child right now, and that includes doing that documentation.
Isn't it important because say you're on vacation the next week and another therapist is going to treat that child the next time, they need to have an accurate depiction of what actually happened.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's change gears. So say you have a therapist that comes to you and they're saying that, okay, I've been here maybe a year and a half and I want to grow. I want to grow in the company. How do you help them figure out what path they want to take?
I love this question. We have 2 leadership paths. One is more clinical, where you are supervising an assistant or you're really there to help the therapist and help their clinical skills kind of blossom. And then you have a path that's a little bit more administrative, a site lead, where you're that liaison between the preschool and PPT. You're the go-to person that when the head of nursing at a PPEC says, oh, we have this going on, you're that person. So when a therapist comes to me and they say, I really want to grow in leadership, usually by that time I really know the therapist well. So I will already have an idea of what path they want to take on. But let's say they don't. I explain it. Our leadership paths are easy to find on our drive. So they can always look back and look at all the job descriptions that speaks to them. You can find what are your strengths, and we're a strength-based company, meaning that we focus on what you're really good at and just making that skill of yours even better and using it to help in those areas that are challenging.
Your blind spot.
Your blind spots.
Yes, we all done a strength training and we learned what our strengths are and what our blind spots are.
Helping those therapists who maybe didn't do that test or that assessment, finding out what their strengths are and saying, you'd be such a good clinical supervisor. You'd be such a good site lead at this medical daycare. And it's a baby step, and you can go as slow or as fast as you want. And I think that's the overlying theme with our company. It's self-driven. If you're super motivated to be like, I want to be a director one day, then you're going to do the steps you need to get to be the director, but you're going to do those steps. And you're going to stay on each step until you feel really confident. You can either choose one path or another, and you can always try different things out.
Going through all the steps is really helpful. I started off working the front desk in a private practice office.
Yeah.
I understand what it's like when a parent calls, what the people in the office feel, what they're going through. I know what it's like to manage a clinic and to go through all the different steps to get to where I am today. It helps me to understand and have empathy for each position. Everything is hard when you're in it, but you have to explain to people, I know your day is hard today. I get it. I understand. Being a clinical manager and now a rehab director, you have that piece of all of this. You've done all of, so you understand the first day jitters, how you grew, all of the things. It's amazing when you have a company that promotes only from within. At least I know that this person has been through the trenches.
You know, we have 3 different clinics in 3 different locations. When I was at the Lake Worth Clinic, I did a lot of my leadership path there. And then I came here and I was a rehab director here. That trust was established quickly with the team, even though it was a brand new team. The West Palm Beach team didn't really know me, but they knew of me, knew that I was an assistant. They knew that I did grad school. They knew I was a CF. Like, they knew those things. So already they felt like I could understand them when they had trouble, or that when I gave advice or suggestions, it was more value. They knew it was coming from a good place, that I get it. I've been there. Here's the experience I had. It really established that rapport quickly, even with a new team.
Awesome. If you knew what you knew now, would you still be an SLP?
Oh my gosh, yes. Love what we do. I think about this all the time, actually. Even as a director, where you have different responsibilities, the foundation of what I'm doing as an SLP is still there. I'm still making a difference with these children and the families. And now I get to inspire other therapists to empower children, empower families. So I feel so fulfilled getting that I can still make an impact with individuals and children and their families, and then also be there for that therapist who's new, or that therapist who's really trying to work on this clinical ladder. Like, I'm there for them. So I 100% would do this field all over again.
Okay. And my last question is, what is the hardest part for you going from therapist to rehab director?
Yes, I think looking at the big picture, taking a step back, and something I tell my therapists who are in leadership or working up leadership is that the higher up you go, the less it is about yourself. So if you're not ready for that, maybe you're not ready for leadership. True. The higher up you go, it's really less about you and more about your team. That perspective needs to be constantly evolving and fine-tuned, because it's very human nature to get complacent. You have a new team, or a new grad who just joined, or a therapist who's maybe been here a while, but they're totally switching their leadership path, and now they want to do this wheelchair clinic. So they're trying to better themselves in that career growth. So I think that's probably the hardest switch, is to always be in line and check that you are always doing things for your team and making sure your team is good, because if your team is good, then everything's good.
Yeah, it's hard to see the big picture, not just within your team, but the whole company, to say, okay, I'm making this decision. It doesn't just impact me or my team, it impacts the whole company.
Yes.
So yeah, I can see how that would be
You're the middleman. Like, you're the middle management, because as the director, I know from a business perspective what's going on, but I also know what's going on from the ground. So you're constantly trying to do what's right for your team and do what's right for the business. Sometimes those ideas can clash, and you have to find the problem, solve the way that it's going to make sense for both parties. Yeah. So and I think that's that big picture of constantly checking in and getting ready for the curveballs that are going to throw in your way, because there's always a curveball coming, and just really always adapting and always being flexible to thinking differently and being open-minded.
Awesome. Thank you for being so open and honest with us today. I hope you join us next time when we explore how to avoid burnout. Thank you.
Have a good one, guys.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Caseload. Before we wrap up, a huge thank you to our sponsor, Galileo for Kids, a science-backed whole-body vibration supporting strength, balance, and meaningful progress in pediatric therapy. If today's episode resonated with you, share it with a colleague or a friend who could use it. And don't forget to follow so you never miss an episode. Until next time, Take care of your kids, your caseload, and yourself, because there's always more beyond the caseload.